I was deep in the throes of my research, surrounded by the familiar hum of machines and the flickering glow of computer screens. My lab, though cluttered, felt like home, a sanctuary where data transformed into knowledge. I meticulously analyzed the latest findings on Earth's deteriorating conditions. The air had grown thick with tension. Droughts, floods, and political unrest were becoming the new norm. I leaned closer to the monitor, my brow furrowed in concentration. If only I could find a solution, I muttered to myself. Suddenly, an unusual signal flickered on my screen, breaking through the static of ambient noise. It pulsed rhythmically, almost like a heartbeat. Intrigued, I adjusted the frequency, and the sound became clearer, a series of patterns that resonated with something primal within me. "What the hell is this?" I whispered, my heart racing. I felt a chill creep down my spine, a mix of excitement and dread. Just then, the door swung open, and my colleague, Dr. Vargas, strolled in, looking as curious as ever. "Emile, you look like you've seen a ghost. What's got you so worked up?" I turned to him, trying to mask my unease. "I've picked up a signal from deep underground. It's unusual. I think it might be intelligent communication." "Intelligent?" "Down there?" He laughed, a hint of skepticism in his voice. "You're not suggesting it could be?" "Don't dismiss it yet, Victor." I interrupted, my voice rising. "This could be monumental. We need to investigate." Before I could gather my thoughts, the door opened again, this time revealing Claire, an ambitious journalist I had crossed paths with a few times. "Emile, I heard you have something interesting," she said, her eyes gleaming with curiosity. "I need the scoop for my next article." "Claire, this isn't just a story." "It might be a warning," I replied, my mind racing. She tilted her head, intrigued. "A warning? From whom?" I took a deep breath, feeling the weight of the moment. "I don't know yet, but I have to find out." As the three of us stood there, the implications of the signal loomed larger than life. I had no idea that beneath the surface, another reality was waiting to surface, a reality that would challenge everything we believed about our world and ourselves. As I stood in my lab, the weight of the world felt heavier than usual. The air crackled with tension, and I could sense that something monumental was about to unfold. I glanced at my cluttered desk, papers strewn everywhere, the flickering monitor displaying the same enigmatic signal I'd been analyzing for days. Just then, the door swung open, and Claire stepped in, her eyes sparkling with determination. "Emile," she said, her voice steady. "I need to know more about this signal. It's not just noise, is it?" I hesitated, unsure if I should let her in on my findings, but the urgency in her tone compelled me. "No, it's not just noise. It's a pattern, a form of communication. I'm still trying to decipher it." Claire leaned closer, her curiosity palpable. "What do you think it means? Is it a warning? A call for help? Or something far more sinister?" I replied, my brow furrowing. "We have to be careful. If this is indeed a message from the Dracorex, we could be on the brink of something catastrophic." Her expression shifted, a mix of skepticism and intrigue. "So, you believe their emergence is imminent?" "Based on this signal, yes," I admitted. "But we need to collaborate if we're going to understand their intentions." Claire nodded, her resolve strengthening. "Then let's work together. We can't afford to be divided now." Meanwhile, across town, Commander Antoine sat in a dimly lit briefing room, the tension palpable as he listened to his superiors outline the disturbances reported near the mines. The flickering lights cast shadows on his rugged face as he gripped the edge of the table. "Sir, we cannot underestimate the threat these creatures pose," one officer asserted, his voice urgent. "They're unlike anything we've encountered." Antoine leaned back, his brow furrowed. "And yet, we don't know their true capabilities. We cannot act rashly. Commander, with all due respect, we need a show of force. We must prepare our troops," another officer insisted, his voice rising. Antoine sighed, feeling the weight of responsibility on his shoulders. "I'll rally the forces, but I want a full analysis first. We need to understand what we're dealing with before we charge into battle." As night fell, the world outside began to shift. The first signs of the Dracorex's presence manifested in dazzling displays of light against the darkened sky. I watched in awe alongside Claire, our hearts racing as we witnessed their advanced technology illuminating the horizon. "Do you see that?" Claire gasped, pointing toward the spectacle. "They're here." "Yes," I murmured, feeling a mix of excitement and dread. "And we need to be ready for whatever comes next." The chaos that followed was unlike anything I had ever experienced. The demonstrations escalated, and I could feel the panic spreading like wildfire among the population. It was a time of reckoning, and humanity stood at a crossroads between coexistence and conflict, the choice hanging heavily in the air. As I crouched behind a large oak table, the dim light of the conference room barely illuminated the tense faces of the government officials. Claire, her breath steady but quick, whispered beside me, "Emil, are you sure about this? If they catch us—" I know, I murmured back, my heart racing. "But we have to hear what they're planning. This could be catastrophic for everyone." The muffled voices of the leaders grew clearer as they argued over the Dracorex situation. I strained to catch every word, my mind racing with thoughts of what this meant. "We can't let them continue their demonstrations unchecked," one man asserted. "They're a threat to our very existence." "And what do you propose?" "A full-scale military strike," another replied, incredulous. "That would be madness. We don't even fully understand their capabilities yet." Claire leaned in closer, her pen poised over her notepad. "If they're planning an attack, we need to expose this to the public," she whispered urgently. "The world has a right to know." Just then, a voice cut through the tension, commanding the room's attention. "We must act decisively. A show of force is necessary to establish dominance. If we don't strike first, they will see our hesitation as weakness." I felt my stomach drop. This was exactly what I feared. As the meeting continued, I exchanged glances with Claire. Her eyes reflected the same dread I felt. The thought of escalating conflict with the Dracorex haunted us both. After the meeting, I found myself pacing in a secluded corner of the building, anxiety coursing through me. The weight of the world felt like a boulder on my shoulders. Suddenly, I heard footsteps and turned to see Antoine approaching, his expression conflicted. "Emil," he said, lowering his voice. "I need to talk to you. We can't let this happen." "Are you saying you agree with us?" I asked, surprised at his sudden shift. "I don't know if I agree, but I'm beginning to see that we might need a different approach," Antoine replied, glancing around nervously. Perhaps we can negotiate instead of escalating this into war." "Negotiation?" Claire interjected, stepping in beside me. "You think they'll listen?" "They might if we approach them with respect," Antoine suggested, his brow furrowed in thought. "But we need to act fast. Time is not on our side." I felt a flicker of hope at his words. "Then let's do it. Let's find a way to reach out to them before it's too late." The three of us stood there, an uneasy alliance formed in the shadow of impending conflict. Our course was uncertain, but the urgency of our mission ignited a fire within me. We needed to find a way to bridge the gap between our species before the boulder on my shoulders crushed us all. The dim light of my lab flickered as I pored over the ancient text I had unearthed. The words seemed to pulse with life, revealing a narrative that contradicted everything I had learned about the Dracorex. They were not merely conquerors, they were guardians, protectors of Earth's delicate balance. My heart raced as I realized the implications of this discovery. Humanity had misunderstood them for centuries, and now, with the world at the brink of war, I had to share this revelation with Claire and Antoine. "Claire! Antoine!" I shouted, barely containing my excitement as I burst into the makeshift meeting room where they were strategizing. Their heads snapped up, surprise etched on their faces. "What is it, Emil?" Claire asked, brow furrowed in concern. "I found something, an ancient text that reveals the true purpose of the Dracorex on Earth. They were meant to protect the planet, not to dominate it." I could see the wheels turning in their minds, the skepticism mingling with hope. Antoine leaned forward, his military demeanor softening. "Are you sure? This could change everything." "It can't be just a coincidence," I insisted. "They've been misunderstood for so long." If we present this to the world leaders, it might shift the narrative toward negotiation instead of conflict. Claire's eyes lit up. I can write an article that highlights your findings. It'll spark global debate and might even sway public opinion. But we have to act fast. As we rushed to formulate a plan, I could hear the distant sounds of unrest outside. Protests had erupted, fueled by fear and misunderstanding. I knew that we had to counter this with truth or risk losing everything. Later that evening, Claire's article hit the airwaves, and the response was immediate. Social media exploded with heated discussions, some supporting the call for peace, while others, blinded by fear, rallied for war. I could feel the tension mounting, both in the streets and in the hearts of humanity. We have to get to the leaders before it's too late, I urged, my voice rising above the chaos. Antoine nodded, his expression a mix of determination and worry. If we can convince them to meet with the Dracorex, then we might just have a chance, Claire finished, her gaze fierce. We stepped out into the night, the air thick with anticipation and uncertainty. The world was on the precipice of a decision that could either doom us or lead us toward a fragile coexistence. As we approached the summit where the leaders gathered, I felt the weight of history bearing down on us. This was our moment, our chance to redefine the narrative and perhaps, just perhaps, save both our species from self-destruction. The air was thick with tension as I, Emile, found myself racing through the corridors of the facility, Claire and Antoine hot on my heels. We had just witnessed chaos erupt when a radical faction of humans attacked the Dracorex representatives. The sound of shattering glass and panicked shouts echoed in my ears, a cacophony of fear that made my heart race. I could hardly believe what was happening. Emile, we need to get out of here. Claire shouted, her voice strained as we turned a corner. I know. But we can't leave without getting a message to Seraphine. I replied, my mind racing. The Dracorex had shown us their advanced technology and offered a path to coexistence, but now it felt like everything was unraveling. Are you insane? Antoine snapped, his military instincts kicking in. Those creatures are a threat. They're just waiting for an excuse to retaliate. No, they're not, Claire interjected, her tone firm. Seraphine is different. She wants peace. We just need to reach her. As we sprinted towards the exit, I caught a glimpse of the chaos outside. The Dracorex were retaliating with a display of power, their scales glistening ominously under the facility's lights. Yet, I noticed an unusual pause in their movements. Seraphine hesitated. Look, I pointed. She's holding back. She knows not all humans are enemies. Antoine grunted in frustration. We can't count on that. We need to find shelter. No! I yelled, stopping in my tracks. We need to get a message to her. If we don't act now, we'll lose our chance for peace. Claire nodded, her eyes determined. I'll cover you. Antoine, you're military. Can you draw their attention away? He hesitated but finally nodded. Fine. Just make it quick. I'll create a diversion. As Antoine moved, I turned to Claire. We need to find a way to communicate with Seraphine. There. Claire pointed to a nearby terminal. If we can access that, we can send a message. I rushed to the terminal, my fingers flying over the keys as I tried to compose a message that would convey our intentions. This is Emile, working with Claire and Antoine. We seek a truce. We want to talk. Just as I hit send, a loud crash reverberated through the building, and I felt a chill run down my spine. Time was running out, and the weight of our decision hung heavy in the air. I turned to Claire, and in that moment, I knew we had to act swiftly before the chance for peace evaporated entirely. As we approached the clearing where Seraphine awaited, the sounds of battle echoed around us, a chaotic symphony of shouts and weaponry clashing. I could see the glint of Dracorex scales amidst the fray, their forms powerful and agile as they defended their ground against a wave of human soldiers. My heart raced, not just from fear, but from the urgency of our mission. We had to reach Seraphine before it was too late. Emile, we can't just run into this. Claire shouted, her voice barely audible over the chaos. She looked at me with wide eyes, both terrified and determined. What if we get caught in the crossfire? I know, but we can't back down now, I replied, the adrenaline surging through me. If Seraphine has the genetic key to heal the planet, we need to convince her to work with us. Antoine, who had been scanning the battlefield, nodded in agreement. Stay close to me. We'll push through together. With that, we moved forward, dodging debris and the occasional flash of energy weapons. My mind raced with the implications of what we might learn. Just as we reached the perimeter of the battle, we caught sight of Seraphine. She stood tall, her reptilian features striking against the backdrop of chaos. But what caught my attention was the fierce determination in her eyes. Enough, she bellowed, her voice cutting through the disarray. The fighting paused momentarily, soldiers on both sides hesitating as they looked to their leaders. Seraphine, I called out, stepping forward despite the tension in the air. We need to talk. There's something you must know. She turned her gaze toward me, her eyes narrowing. What do you have to say, human? Your kind has shown nothing but hostility. I understand your anger, but I've discovered something crucial, I urged, my voice steady. You possess a genetic key, one that can heal the Earth, restore what has been lost. What do you mean? She asked, her curiosity piqued despite the battle raging around us. Before I could respond, she stepped closer, her form shifting slightly in the light. You think I don't know my own heritage? Seraphine revealed, her voice softer yet powerful. I am a hybrid, part human, part Dracorex. I was created to bridge our worlds. I exchanged a glance with Claire and Antoine, astonished. A hybrid? Claire murmured, her intrigue evident. Yes, Seraphine continued, the weight of her words palpable. I've seen the destruction wrought by both our species. But together, we can heal this planet. I offer humanity a chance for cooperation, a chance to thrive alongside us. As the enormity of her offer sank in, I felt a surge of hope. If we can save the Earth, we must try. We have to unite, not just for ourselves but for the future. Antoine stepped forward, his expression resolute. We need to end the fighting. Let's show both our people that unity is the way forward. With that, Seraphine raised her hand, signaling for peace. The clamor of battle slowly faded into an uneasy silence. In that moment, we stood on the brink of a new era, an alliance forming amidst the ashes of our past. Together, we could rewrite history, forging a path toward a sustainable future for both humans and Dracorex.